The boiling frog syndrome. You want to know how most careers die slowly, then suddenly Bruce Lee said, "The most dangerous person is the one who listens, thinks, and observes." Let me tell you about Jack, a brilliant VP of sales at a Fortune 500 technology company. For 12 consecutive years, Jack crushed his numbers. His team consistently ranked in the top 5% globally. His compensation package reached 7 figures. By every measurable standard, Jack was winning. Then, in 18 months, he became unemployable. Not because he stopped performing. Not because he made a career-ending mistake. Not because of office politics or a toxic boss. Jack became irrelevant because he didn't see the water heating up around him. While Jack was busy being excellent at yesterday's game, tomorrow's game was being rewritten. CRM systems began predicting customer behavior better than his gut instincts. AI-powered lead scoring outperformed his team's qualification process. Automated nurturing sequences generated more pipeline than his carefully crafted relationship-building strategies. The company didn't fire Jack. They simply stopped needing what he was great at. This is the boiling frog syndrome of modern careers. And if you're succeeding right now, especially if you're succeeding right now, you're at the highest risk of becoming its next victim. Are you familiar with invisible assassination of expertise? Here's what makes this phenomenon so insidious. The most dangerous career threats don't announce themselves. They don't send you a memo saying, "We're about to make you obsolete." They creep in quietly, gradually, almost imperceptibly, disguised as helpful tools, efficiency improvements, or strategic initiatives. Think about it. Blockbuster didn't see Netflix coming because Netflix started as a DVD by mail service, hardly a threat to their massive retail footprint. Kodak invented digital photography but couldn't see it would cannibalize their film business because early digital quality was inferior. Travel agents dismissed online booking sites because people want personal service for important trips. In each case, the threat was initially inferior to the existing solution. But while these industry leaders were focused on incremental improvements to their current model, the inferior alternatives were evolving exponentially. Do you know that today your career faces the same invisible threat pattern? The AI that can't quite match your analytical thinking today will surpass it tomorrow. The automation that handles only routine tasks this quarter will manage complex decisions next year. The junior employee who needs your guidance is secretly learning to do your job better, faster, and cheaper. But here's the cruel irony. The more successful you are, the less likely you are to see it coming. Yet globally, most high performers are sitting ducks. Success creates a psychological fortress that shields you from recognizing existential threats. When you're winning consistently, your brain develops what psychologists call confirmation bias on steroids. You unconsciously filter out information that contradicts your successful worldview. Let me show you how this plays out in 3 devastating ways. 1. The excellence trap is a nightmare. When you're exceptional at something, you naturally invest more time and energy into becoming even more exceptional at that same thing. It's logical. It's what got you here. But this creates what I call expertise tunnel vision. Take Sarah, a marketing director who built her career on campaign creativity and brand storytelling. For 8 years, her campaigns won awards and drove revenue growth. She was the creative genius everyone consulted. But while Sarah was perfecting her craft, the marketing world was shifting toward data science, attribution modeling, and programmatic advertising. Sarah's response? Double down on creativity. Data is important, she'd say, but nothing replaces human insight and emotional connection. She wasn't wrong, but she was becoming irrelevant. By the time Sarah realized that creative genius without data fluency was like being a master blacksmith in the age of factories, 3 junior colleagues had been promoted above her. They weren't more creative than Sarah. They were more adaptable. The excellence trap works like this. Your strength becomes your strategy becomes your identity, and your identity becomes your prison. 2. Do not ignore the signal-to-noise confusion. High performers are constantly bombarded with information, requests, and opportunities. Success creates noise. The more successful you become, the more people want your attention, your opinion, your participation. This information overload creates a dangerous side effect. you become increasingly reliant on pattern recognition to filter what matters. You unconsciously train yourself to pay attention to familiar signals while tuning out unfamiliar ones. Consider David, a pharmaceutical sales manager who spent 15 years building relationships with physicians. He knew exactly which doctors made decisions quickly, which needed multiple touch points, which preferred clinical data versus patient stories. David was a relationship master. But while David was perfecting his relationship playbook, two fundamental shifts were occurring. Healthcare systems were centralizing purchasing decisions, reducing individual physician influence, and physicians were increasingly relying on AI-powered treatment recommendations, reducing their dependence on sales rep insights. David interpreted these changes as temporary complications rather than permanent shifts because they didn't fit his successful pattern recognition system. When his company restructured the sales organization around health system decision-makers instead of individual physicians, David was stunned. The signal-to-noise problem dilemma is success teaches you to see what worked before, not what's working now. 3. Also, be aware of the sunk cost emotional trap. Perhaps the most dangerous psychological trap for high performers is emotional investment in their accumulated expertise. The more time, energy, and identity you've invested in mastering a particular approach, the harder it becomes to acknowledge when that approach is becoming obsolete. This isn't just about ego, though ego plays a role. It's about fundamental human psychology. Researchers call it the endowment effect. We overvalue things we already possess, including our skills, knowledge, and methods. Jennifer, a financial advisor who spent 20 years building a practice around comprehensive financial planning and personal relationship management. She was exceptional at understanding client needs, creating customized strategies, and providing ongoing guidance. Her clients loved her, and her income reflected her value. But robo-advisors were quietly eating away at the foundation of her business model. While Jennifer was focused on delivering superior personalized service, automated investment platforms were providing 80% of her value at 20% of the cost. Jennifer's initial response was dismissive. Clients want human connection. They want someone who understands their unique situation. Robots can't replace relationship-based advice. She was right about what clients wanted. She was wrong about what they were willing to pay for. By the time Jennifer realized that her comprehensive planning needed to evolve into behavioral coaching and complex situation navigation, many of her clients had moved their simple investment accounts to automated platforms, keeping only their most complex needs with her. According to the sunk cost trap, the more you've invested in becoming excellent at something, the more loss it feels like to admit that something is changing. The psychology of gradual change blindness. Understanding why we miss slow-moving threats requires understanding how human perception works. Our brains are evolutionarily wired to detect immediate dangers: the tiger in the bushes, the car running the red light, the angry boss approaching our desk. But we're neurologically terrible at detecting gradual change. This isn't a character flaw. It's a feature of human psychology called change blindness. In laboratory studies, researchers can make dramatic changes to a photograph while someone is looking at it, and the person won't notice, as long as the change happens during a brief distraction. The same principle applies to career threats. As long as the change happens gradually, with enough daily distractions, meetings, deadlines, urgent requests, our brains simply don't register the accumulating threat. Here's how this plays out in professional contexts. Month 1. A new AI tool is introduced to help with data analysis. You try it briefly, find it somewhat useful, but not as insightful as your experience-based analysis. You continue relying primarily on your proven approach. Month 6. The AI tool has improved significantly, but you're busy with a major project and haven't revisited it. Colleagues mention using it, but you're getting good results with your current methods. Month 12. The AI tool is now producing insights that match or exceed your analysis quality, and it's much faster. But you've been successful all year using your traditional approach, so the shift feels less urgent. Month 18. Management begins questioning why they need senior analysts when AI tools can produce similar insights at a fraction of the cost and time. You're suddenly facing questions about your role's ROI that feel like they came out of nowhere. But they didn't come out of nowhere. They came slowly, gradually, predictably, and you didn't see them because your brain isn't designed to detect this type of threat pattern. Do not neglect the acceleration factor. What makes the boiling frog syndrome particularly dangerous in today's workplace is that the rate of change is accelerating. The water isn't just heating up gradually, it's heating up exponentially. Consider these professional evolution timelines. Desktop publishing eliminated most typesetting jobs over 15 years, 1980s, 1990s. Email and digital communication transformed administrative roles over 10 years, 1990s, 2000s. CRM and sales automation changed sales processes over 7 years, 2000s, 2010s. Social media and content management disrupted marketing roles over 5 years, 2010s. AI and machine learning are transforming knowledge work over 2 to 3 years, 2020s. Each wave of change is happening faster than the previous one. This means you have less time to recognize the threat, less time to adapt, and less time to recover if you miss the signal. But here's the counterintuitive reality. The faster the change, the more valuable early recognition becomes. If you can see a 3-year transformation in its first 6 months, you have 30 months to adapt while your competitors are still in the "this is just a temporary trend" phase. If you recognize a threat when it's still 20% developed, you have time to not just survive the transition, you have time to thrive in it. What is the high performer's paradox? This brings us to the central paradox of career agility. The skills that make you successful today can become the exact obstacles that prevent you from succeeding tomorrow. Expertise creates confidence, and that's a trap because confidence creates comfort with your current approach. Comfort reduces curiosity about alternative approaches. Reduced curiosity limits learning. Limited learning leads to gradual obsolescence. Meanwhile, mediocre performers often adapt better because they're already uncomfortable with their current results. They're actively seeking better methods, exploring new tools, and experimenting with different approaches. Their weakness becomes an adaptability strength. I've watched this pattern play out dozens of times. The top sales rep who couldn't adapt to social selling because he was already successful with relationship selling. The brilliant marketing director who missed the content marketing shift because her traditional campaigns were still working. The exceptional project manager who was replaced by agile methodologies because his waterfall process was proven and reliable. In each case, their strength, being really good at the current approach, became their weakness when the current approach stopped being the best approach. How to go about breaking the boiling frog pattern. The antidote to the boiling frog syndrome isn't trying to predict the future. It's building early detection systems that alert you to gradual change before it becomes crisis-level disruption. Think of yourself as a career seismologist. Your job isn't to prevent earthquakes. It's to detect the small tremors that signal bigger shifts coming. Here are the early warning signs every high performer should monitor. Tremor 1. Your meetings are getting smaller. When you start getting invited to fewer strategy sessions, fewer planning meetings, fewer big-picture conversations, it's often the first signal that your input is becoming less central to decision-making. Tremor 2. Your complex work is getting simpler. When the challenging, nuanced projects you used to handle are being broken down into more standardized processes, it's often preparing for automation or delegation to junior people. Tremor 3. Your results require more explanation. When you start needing to provide more context about why your outcomes matter, or when your wins aren't receiving the recognition they used to, it's often because the value you provide is becoming less obviously essential. Tremor 4. Your learning curve is flattening. When you haven't had to stretch, struggle, or learn something difficult in the past 6 months, it's often because you're operating entirely within your existing expertise, which means you're not growing in ways that keep you valuable. Tremor 5. Younger colleagues are asking fewer questions. When junior colleagues stop seeking your guidance as frequently, it's often because they're finding other sources of information, other methods of solving problems, or other mentors whose expertise feels more relevant to current challenges. None of these signals alone means you're in immediate danger. But when you start seeing multiple tremors, it's time to investigate what's shifting beneath the surface of your professional landscape. So what is the path forward? The boiling frog syndrome isn't inevitable, but overcoming it requires rejecting the comfortable illusion that current success guarantees future security. High performers have a choice. You can be the frog that stays comfortable until it's too late, or you can be the frog that notices the water temperature and jumps to a better pond while you still have the energy and options to make that jump successfully. The water around your career is heating up right now. The question isn't whether change is coming, it's whether you'll recognize it in time to adapt, evolve, and emerge stronger. Your track record of success has earned you the resources, relationships, and reputation to navigate this transition successfully. But only if you use them before the water starts boiling. The most dangerous changes are indeed the ones you don't see coming. But now that you know what to look for, you don't have to be blindsided. You just have to choose to keep your eyes open.